Brian, I did mine on the cloud. Mainly the pros and cons of the cloud. Obviously, it's hitting, technology quite well right now. So if you see what's going on with it, the cloud is pretty much using resources through the internet. Use software as a service. The providers can provide applications through a cloud infrastructure. Pretty much they control almost everything if you go through them. You don't have to do everything through them. You can do, obviously, software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. Like I said, the software is just basic applications that they have running that you can use, and you go straight to your virtual machine. Platforms, if you want to run Windows 7 on your machines, run it straight through the cloud to your virtual machines, and it's easy. Infrastructure, storage-wise, networks-wise, pretty much anything you can do in store at your local business, they can run through the cloud. The cloud is very scalable. It allows companies to move if they're reaching out more, they need more storage, they need more resources coming to their networks. They can call up the providers and pretty much just upgrade to what they need. There's no more, buying excessive hardware and software. So it definitely it helps them to either expand when they need to, or a lot of companies like retail, they have to, they have peak times of the year, so they could downsize when they need to. They don't need as much storage, during the summer, so they can downgrade that to where they're not spending as much. One of the big things is it saves a lot on downtime. The companies aren't worrying about when a server goes down, they have to replace it, possibly if it's an older version, research a new one that's going to work for their network. So that saves a lot of time and money, and that's where the cloud is becoming a big thing. You don't have the troubleshooting anymore as much as you used to. You still will, because you'll have the virtual machines. You're going to be able to cut back on employees. So they're not paying out in benefits to as many employees, or if they wanted to, they could keep those employees and focus more on security for the building, or other things like that. Storage I already mentioned earlier. Resources, yeah, they can definitely pull a lot of resources, more CPU power, all that kind of stuff right through the cloud. However, there are some cons. There's not as many as there are benefits, but the cons definitely do stand out. Security is definitely a big issue. We can't use the same type of protocols and standards that we do with the networks that we use now. With the cloud, everything is virtual, so essentially we have to go virtual. Our standard IDSs and IPSs aren't going to work, because if something gets within the network, no, it's fine. If something gets within the network in here, it's it's going to widespread. I mean, it's definitely going to affect massive amounts of companies, because they're all together on one network. What they're using, though, for security is they are using virtual IDSs, IPSs, things that we use now, but obviously they're virtual. The only problem with this, there's no standard for it. It's all based on company to company and what tests they run. So you really have to do your research on the companies, and you have to be willing to trust them. And it comes down to that. Big downfall is bandwidth. Bandwidth costs a lot of money. And some companies like Sony, they actually transfer between 4 to 12 terabytes a day with their movies. And building them and all that kind of stuff. And there's no way that they could go through a provider and afford to use cloud services. However, some companies have found that investing in their own cloud, having their own private cloud, is definitely worth the money. The big thing is having that upfront cost to building their own private cloud. Definitely you lose control with the cloud. You don't have control over, what your security protocols are, especially physical. You don't know how they do for their building, if people need to have badges to get into their building in order to access, where they have all their servers and everything, or not. You don't have control over that. So you really, like I said, you got to do your research on the company and what they use. You have no ability to manage the infrastructure at all. You're pretty much giving all control to the provider, letting them take the wheel and drive. One of the other big problems is you can't control third parties. Yes, you have your stuff out on the cloud, but so does some other company that's going through that provider. So the big thing is knowing if the company, the provider you're going through, what kind of passwords and security they're making everybody use. If they're not making everybody use a standard, 8 to 12 length password or whatnot, then you have a security problem from another company, not through the provider. So that definitely brings some serious security risks. There's definitely a lot of things to ask if you're going to look at going to the cloud. You need to look at encryption. When your stuff goes to the cloud, is it going to be encrypted? When it leaves, is it still encrypted? Are they able to have access to the information themselves? If there are problems, or even preventing problems, what do they do? What are their protocols to do it? One of the big things would be, do they use tools to scan for vulnerabilities on their network? And if they do, how do they go about fixing those? The virtual security testing, like I said, there is no standard for it yet. It's new. A lot of people are moving to it, but there still is no standard. It's based on company to company. And physical security protocols, you definitely have to look at theirs, ask them, how these people, who has access to their physical location, and how to, if people get in, who's there to, stop them if they do. You definitely have to look and see if it's cost effective. Most companies, yes, it does seem like cost effective, but not for everyone. Big companies like Sony, like I said, creating their own private cloud, yes, will work for them and will save them in the long run, but they're going to still pay out enormously in starting up their own private cloud. You definitely need to look at your service level agreement with the companies, because they, it's pretty much your contract with them. So you work for an insurance company and they're going through a provider for, all their services. If something gets breached, you're dealing with HIPAA. And trust me, you don't want to deal with HIPAA. And who takes responsibility for that? So you need to see that in your service level agreement. Who is taking responsibility if there's a breach? Because then the company, the insurance company, would have to deal with HIPAA. So they need to specify in the contracts whether or not if they're taking responsibility for the breaches in their networks. And these are just my cited sources. And that's it.
As far as company that's out there right now during your research, which one kind of stands out to you using TAL more than others, maybe?
Actually, Amazon and Google are the top ones that I've seen.
Okay.
That are definitely pushing the cloud big time.
Do either one or both offer services to people to use? And if so, what kind of services?
They both offer the platform, the software services. They both offer, I mean, pretty much anything that has to do with the cloud, they both offer it. As far as security goes, I didn't get that in depth into how much they actually go through. But with you talking about the problems with Amazon, I would not trust their cloud.
Any other questions? All right, good job. Give me a hand. Cloud's definitely not going anywhere. All right. Next, please. Natalie. There you go. Wow, you got up there quick. Did you run up? Okay. Here you go. You want to put this? You want to put this on? No? Here's your little clicker thing. Get you going here. Okay, let's give Natalie our attention.
Okay, my presentation is about SSH, Secure Shell. Come on. SSH is a very popular software-based approach to network security. Pretty much whenever data is sent from your computer to the network, SSH automatically encrypts it, and when it arrives to destination, it decrypts it. The good thing about it is that when you're using it, users usually are not aware of SSH doing anything. SSH uses modern encryption technologies, and it is very popular and common in pretty much all companies that do any web development and system administration. Come on.
Point towards here now. You can point towards this one.
Architecture. SSH has a client-server architecture. As you can see in the picture, SSH server program typically installed and run by system administrator. It accepts or rejects incoming connections, and all communications between clients and servers are completely secure and protected from any modification. SSH, sometimes there is a misconception about SSH because it's not a product, it's a protocol, and it specifies how to conduct secure communication over the network. SSH covers authentication, encryption, and integrity of data transmitted over the network. Okay. Well, everybody knows what authentication is. SSH is very useful here, and this feature is great. When you try to log into account, SSH asks for digital proof of your identity. And if you pass the test, you can log in. Otherwise, connection is rejected. Encryption. This feature protects your data as it passes over the network. Integrity. SSH guarantees that your data will arrive unaltered. So, in short, SSH makes your network connections between computers secure, and your data will arrive unmodified and unread by hackers or anybody else. SSH has a few great features, and one of them is secure remote login. Unlike Telnet that transmits your username and password in plain text, which could be read by anybody with malicious intentions, SSH uses similar code. You type in SSH in your terminal if you're using a Unix, or Mac. It's similar to Telnet where you would type in RSH. So this provides secure login to remote machine. Secure file transfer. SSH uses command code secure copy, and while being transmitted, the file is automatically encrypted as it leaves your account and is decrypted when it arrives to another account. Port forwarding is a good feature because it can increase security of applications such as Telnet, FTP, that are not very secure, but if you use port forwarding and it reroutes connection to pass through SSH connection, which makes it more secure. Secure remote command execution. Typically you need it when you need to run same command on many computers and would like to see active processes for each user. RSH again is an insecure version, and using SSH you use SSH on your Unix or Mac terminal. Syntax is pretty much identical, but and visible output is identical also, but SSH execution would be much more secure. Keys and agents. SSH has this feature to help you with your passwords. Using keys, SSH first of all uses keys rather than passwords, and for security, keys kept encrypted. It may be used only after entering a secret passphrase to decrypt it. So using keys on any agent, SSH can authenticate you to all your computer accounts securely without requiring you to memorize all of your passwords and enter them repeatedly. Access control. It's useful when you want to allow another person, let's say it's your secretary or somebody who doesn't have access to your computer, but he needs it temporarily for certain purposes. With SSH, you can give that person access to your account without revealing or changing your password. SFTP is a SSH file transfer protocol. It's a network protocol that provides file access, file transfer, and file management functionalities. And it's kind of a bad name for this protocol because everybody assumes it stands for Secure FTP, which is not. It has nothing to do with FTP. It can't talk securely to FTP server, and which is the mistake people make when they make these assumptions. It's file transfer over SSH. And you can use, again, if you're a web developer, you're going to use this every day. And there's a lot of graphical solutions, and you can also use command line if you prefer. If you use command line on Unix or on your Mac, you just type in SFTP, your username, at an address, IP address of server you want to connect, and then it prompts you for the password. You can use Graphical clients. This is my favorite, and it works great. Transmit. It's not free, obviously, but it's a very good software. I can't complain. There's also Forklift, Flow, and Fetch for Mac. And for Mac and Windows, there's FileZilla, that's probably most popular. Everybody uses it, it's free. It works great, and I don't know, never failed on me. Then there's also CyberDuck that just recently came out with their Windows version. Before it was Mac only, and they have portable client that you can download on a USB drive and take with you anywhere. There's also a few clients for your iPad or iPhone. TextTastic is the one I'm using. It's also editor. You can create PHP, HTML files, and it has a little built-in browser for HTML files that you can preview what you just typed. Then there is also iFiles and Prompt for iPad and iPhone. Pretty good. And if you have Android phone, Folder Sync is great, and there is a white version that you can use. It's very functional. And mobile, SFTP, they have a trial, and if you like it, you can purchase it. It's not expensive. It's just a couple of dollars. SFTP is not complete security solution, but nothing really is, and SSH does a great job at encryption and authentication for your web development goals or whatever. It's robust and user-friendly. And so.
I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
I know you use SFTP for your web development.
Yeah.
How many web developers do you think do not use SFTP but just plain FTP open?
Nobody.
How many? Just general. I'm saying general web developers just getting started out. How many think's familiar with secure FTP?
I mean, if you use a client,
Right.
it's not complicated.
Right.
It's the same setup. You know, you fire up your application and type in all the information you need to connect.
Right.
It's very similar,
Right.
which is why I think people assume, okay, it's probably FTP, but somehow secure version or whatever,
Right.
even though it's not.
Right.
So I don't know anybody who uses FTP for web development. We don't use FTP. It's not even allowed. It's not going to connect at all. I mean, so, and thank you.
Good job. Good job. All right. Let's look ahead here for next week.